I think that just about everybody my age at the minute is feeling a tad nostalgic because of Stranger Things. Obviously set in the 80s, the year that people my age were teenagers. It's like 80s was more my decade than the 70s. I weren't even 10 in the 70s. So like literally the 80s were the decade that I lived through. My most nostalgic decade. So like that's come up now in Stranger Things, and everybody's running up that hill and sort of getting in the groove. And I've seen a thing the other day, a meme was posted on Facebook. I grew up with Steve Jobs, Johnny Cash and Bob Hope. Now there's no Jobs, no Cash and no Hope. Please don't let anything happen to Kevin Bacon. I think we can all agree on that one, right? Dean Winchester. So anyways, as it happened, so I shared that because as it happens, I'd been thinking about this topic, absolutely nothing to do with Stranger Things, earlier on. It's one of my most nostalgic things that I always go on about, and it was something to do with the cost of living crisis. I think that made me think it. The cost of living crisis. This is what should be on my photo for my channel, mate. Just me going like that. But yeah, it's all orchestrated by them. The whole bloody lot. Food shortages, all they're doing. Anyways, what were I talking about? Yes, but Polo mints. I remember when a packet of Polo mints used to cost a grand total of 4 of your English pence. I remember being gutted when they went up to 7p. Then they went up a jump to 11p. I don't know what they are now. I have bought some Polo mints, but I think they've got to be about 70p now. I don't know. If you know, put it in the comments below. Yeah, I tend to try to not look at prices of things because it's depressing. Oh yeah. Disclaimer. These are my thoughts. I swear. So yeah, this is this kind of nostalgia that I have, looking back and seeing things on Stranger Things, roller discos. I remember going to the roller disco when, back then, my legs worked. Yeah, I used to go to the roller disco, absolutely bloody loved it. Not there anymore. It's the Tigers Rugby Club, has been for decades. Yeah. Basically, well, it was a car park. I think it's the car park bit that used to be the roller disco. I'm not sure. I think the Tigers is down a bit. That could have been the Glice rink. Glice, mate. It's like ice, except it's made out of plastic. The joys. Anyway, these are the things I remember. I remember our first telephone. I remember a time when there weren't, home phones. I remember getting our first home phone, and it was in the hallway. And you used to have to, it was on the wall, and you used to have to, we didn't have those big long extensions like Americans do where you can just walk around the house with it, but we'd sit on the stairs with the phone, freezing. I remember, speaking of which, I remember central heating. I remember having a coal fire and thinking like we were the Queen of Sheba, because we've got a gas fire, and then central heating, mate. What the fuck? I remember double glazing. I had a house with sash windows before double glazing. That kind of thing. This is my nostalgia. I remember my brother getting his first Space Invaders machine, and we'd sit in the kitchen with the light off while everybody were in the living room with the light on. Big light. Didn't have mood lighting when I was a kid. That's one thing I would not like. I was grown up. Hated big light. Disliked severely the big light. I like mood lighting. I like ambient light, not big light. Shut up about the light. So yeah, I remember sat up against the fridge with my brother in playing Space Invaders, and then my brother taking turns, him and my other brother, one of my other brothers, taking turns, and he's just sitting there watching because I'm a girl. I did get the odd turn, I'm sure, because they weren't bastards. They were good lads, but the lads got the main turn because it's more of a man thing. definitely was back in them days. But I remember that Space Invaders machine, feeling like the Queen of Sheba. You know, like I remember having a record player that was that I used to that would plug it in, put it on my bed when I was really ill, when I was 10 and nearly died. And my brother, who's now passed on, bless him, Sean, brought in the record player and sat and listened to it with me to loads of records. Black Betty by Ram Jam, yes mate. One Sunday afternoon, keep me company because I was stuck in bed on my own. Yeah, that's, you know, like I remember having lino on the floor, like before carpets were a thing. Oh God, that can't be true. That can't be true. I think I made that fucker up. But I remember having an outdoor toilet and whatever. That was quite exciting. Especially when my mum went in there, like, cause I got there were moth. I was shitting myself. So when I got my mum went in there. This moth went in her mouth. Oh, I nearly shat my pants, like before I got to the lift. But you know, like nostalgia. You know, it's nice to look back at that. You know, all the old neon leg warmers and shit like this. And then it got me thinking, and made me quite sad. What the kids these days, you know, like they've not got this. Then they'll never have the memories that we had. You know, so much changed. Like with getting central heating, with getting double glazing, all of these things. TV, it's like nowadays you've got endless TV. Back when I was little, we had 3 channels and you had to get up and go to a knob on the wall to turn them over. You know what I mean? I remember when Channel 4 came in. I remember when Channel 5 came in. After that, it just got a bit blurry. That was kind of like the pinnacle of the thing until we got Sky, obviously. But you know, like, and then it's like nothing's really wowed anymore. It's like the kids these days, they're just going to remember what games they played. You know, like they're not going to remember, you know, playing out. Well, some of them will. You know, the kids play around here. It's lovely to see. The only difference, like, yeah, shush. But yeah, it's like when I was little, there was proper danger, you know. we really did push it to the edge. We made go-karts out of any old fucking thing. I lived on a hill, so like we'd just like strap on skates or whatever and boom, off you go. Survive or not, it's up to you. Well, it's up to fate. You know, like, but to the kids of today, when they grow up, what's their nostalgia going to be like? Like, oh, do you remember so-and-so from so-and-so school, from this class? Like, he's a footballer now. It's like, no, mate, you weren't in my bubble. It's like, oh, do you remember that? Do you remember which were you? Did you choose heat or eat? Do you know what I mean? Do you remember that year we were kept indoors for 2 years? It's like, mate, my stepdad killed himself. Do you know what I mean? It's like they'll have all the fucking deaths. It's like, oh, do you remember looking back nostalgically on all the fucking footballers who killed over on the pitch? Whereas we sit there and look back at fucking, you know, like old Mooncat or Scooby-Doo. It's a different world, and we've allowed that. We are allowing that to happen. And when these kids get to our age, they're going to be treating us the way we're allowing our parents to be treated. Because our parents didn't know to put anything right for us. We know we're being fucked over. And we're leaving this for our kids. And I, for one, am fucking ashamed of myself that this is happening in my lifetime. My grandkids ain't never... My youngest kid, youngest 2 kids, my sons, don't know a world pre-9/11. Like literally where everything's tagged and bagged and you're monitored wherever you go, surveilled, where all your fucking food's poisoned, the air's poisoned, the water's poisoned. Don't think I'm being over dramatic there. My fucking water supply's got bleach in it, mate. You run my tap, it smells like a swimming pool. And of course, fluoride, which is why I don't drink it and I don't pay for it, but that's not the, but still, you know, like I have to run the tap and I can still smell the bastard. There's poison in my fucking water and you can smell it for yourself. It's not conspiracy theory, it's a fact that they're poisoning our water. You only have to look up to see the bloody chemtrails to see that they're poisoning the sky, but they've told us that there's nothing to worry about and we still believe them. Look at what your child, put yourself behind the eyes of your child, any child right now, and think, are they having the experience that you had when you were a child? Do they have anything like the freedom that we had when we were children? No, they don't. And it's only ever going to get worse. Because when my mum were little, they had a park fucking ranger dude. He'd got his own little fucking cubby hole. They've got like they've got rides on there that were like proper. It sounded like fucking something from Alton Towers. And this bloke maintained it and made sure the kids were safe. There's nobody looking after the kids anymore. All the bloody playgrounds are shit. There's fucking hypodermic needles everywhere, broken fucking glass. Because the kids who are getting a bit older just sit on them and get fucking pissed because there's nothing else to do because the world has gone to shit. And that is your fault. And that is my fault. And we need to start doing something about it. And I won't stop saying it because unless we do something about it, it won't get done. Because these people only work for themselves and it is provable. And these people have said out of their own mouths that they want the population drastically reduced and we trust them over each other with healthcare advice. We don't, when I was little, it's like you ask my mum. And if my mum didn't know, she'd ask my nana. And that, we were all right. But, well, I have got some vaccine damage because I wouldn't have. Right, okay. That aside, the medical shit aside, right? These people prove that they are lying to you and yet we trust them with everything. And with a little bit of looking in depth at what has actually gone on and what is going on now, we should be able to put two and two together and see what they have planned for the future. And it is not good. And you and I, obviously I'm doing it, you need to start, we as a collective need to start coming together and discussing ways, not just turning up to a march, discussing ways of actual physical change. Ignore people who say, this is how bad it is. Yeah, ain't that? Not at all people. I'm only talking about one fella and we all know who I'm talking about. Well, no, Alex Jones as well. Alex Jones will be like, this is what's bad and whatever. Don't do no about it. Just follow me, and then I'll just leave you in a hole so that you know your world shit, but I ain't going to give you any suggestions of how to get out of it. That needs to stop. We need to stop believing in false idols, start believing in each other, in the universe and the planet that we fucking stand on, and start putting that first. Us and the planet that we stand on and all the species that it supports. And let's get the resources and the manpower, the only two things that money could ever physically represent, ever. People and things for those people to do things with. Only things that money could equate to. And they're ever more getting into the hands of greedy rich bastards. The Rona pandemic saw 9 new billionaires made. Again, like most people, probably the only people who watch this, will already know that 1 million seconds is 12 days, and don't quote me, and 1 billion seconds is 35 years, something like that. That's the difference between 1 million and 1 billion, and we have got people on this planet who've got billions worth of fresh air, because that's what numbers really technically are, the actual money. They haven't got resources and manpower in the bank. They've got numbers, so that the resources and the manpower, that is, it's all in the hands of bad people. We need to come together and start formulating ways to put it right and get rid of these bastards. Scratch the itch, take the scab off, let some fresh air get in, and let's start thriving. Please, get in touch. Let's get this done. Love you all. Keep your fingers crossed for Steve Harrington.